thoughts on the last meal at Cafe Mori. I'm going to break this down into 5, make that 6 categories. Sorry, I should have written this out before I started doing this, but here I am. So those categories are going to be 1, writing, overall story, presentation, dialogue, etc. 2, art, the visual appeal, style, layout, quality, etc. 3, music. 4 will be characters. Okay, I was getting ready to say the 5th category will be voice acting, but since there was just those couple bits in the beginning and you haven't finished putting in the voice acting yet, I'm just gonna make that one a not applicable. And then 6 will be the my evaluation of the mini games, or mini game, I should say. So, writing, overall story. I really like the individual stories from the different patrons. I thought that was kind of a cool effect, and the stories were really kind of interesting and engaging, at least the 3 that I did. The thing that I didn't like was that Robin and Mori didn't have a story. They were both kind of bookends to the other stories. So overall, I didn't wind up playing a single story. I wound up playing 3 stories with 2 bookends on it. And I'm kind of mixed on that, because on the one hand, like I said, I really liked the individual stories. I thought they were kind of a fun mix of cute and introspective and informative. But on the other side of the coin, why do 3 separate stories? Normally, I wouldn't say what I'm about to say, because I'm trying to solve the problem that I've identified for you, and some of the comments I've gotten back on this in the past is it runs a little counterintuitive. People wind up fixating on why I think this solution will work, as opposed to why the problem is there in the first place. But I'm going to say it this way. I feel like the overall game story should have been Robin's. Because you establish in the game that, she's been there a long time, since the 50s. I'm assuming you mean the 1950s. And assuming that, this takes place, modern-ish day timeline, she's been there 70 years. Now, that could just easily be, 1950 BCE. Or 1950 in dinosaur days. I honestly don't know. But the bottom line is she's been there a long time. And the question hangs, why hasn't she moved on? And you certainly give a empirical answer for that. When it said, she was never able to choose a memory, thus she couldn't do a last meal. Okay. Why? I mean, are we supposed to feel sympathetic toward her? Are we supposed to feel like we're lost through her? Are we supposed to be opposed to her? Is this supposed to be a story of self-reconciliation? There isn't anything there to make that determination. So I feel like if, Robin started the story with the question of, here I am at the end of the universe. What does this mean for me? And as she goes through the patrons, she pieces some things together so that at the end of it, she has her answer. That would help tie the entire experience together and make it multiple chapters of a single story as opposed to multiple stories. But bottom line, I would give the writing on Last Meal at Cafe Mori 7 out of 10. So, next category is art. The art was simplistic. And I know there's a gut reaction to kind of say simplistic art is bad. It doesn't look as good. I don't look at it that way. Games and visual novels and stuff like comics and stuff like that they are a visual medium. The art is part of the storytelling. It's not an addendum, it's not an extra, it's not a tack on. There have been games that I've played, the art was fantastic, but the story was kind of so-so. That actually works against the game, in my opinion, because I'm looking at something pretty, but there's nothing really there to engage my mind for the story. You know, the story is just a sequence of events that happen. I'm not looking at anything that means anything. In the case of The Last Meal at Cafe Mori, I feel like kind of an inverse of that happens. While the art is simplistic, it works for the story. None of the stories are particularly mature, I guess is a good way to put it. They're very simplistic, but that's to its strength. The game wants you to be introspective. It wants you to think about what does this memory mean to someone. And having the simplistic art style complements that in a lot of ways. I think a more developed art style would lend to more of a more adult-oriented storytelling. And I think that would actually cause two problems with the game overall. One, there wouldn't be as much introspection. It would probably be a drive to make the stories more detailed, more graphic, more real. But that's not what you're trying to do here. At least I don't think it is, anyway. But two, I think if the art style were more developed, more shading, more color, more texture, something like that, it would detract from the more childlike nature of the presentation of the story as it is right now. And I think that would actually be a bad thing. So overall, I'm going to give the art a 6 out of 10. Okay. So next category is music. I'm going to be honest, the music really kind of caught me by surprise. When I started the game, I heard the music play, I was like, okay, that's nice. I don't have any complaints about it. But later on, when I was getting some B-roll for this, the music was playing. And all I was doing was recording, nothing else. And I was kind of listening to music. I'm like, this is actually really kind of catchy. This is like kind of sleeper catchy. Like if I sat here and said, hey, listen to this, it would probably just be okay. But if it's playing and you're not listening to it, it kind of slips in the back door and sticks in your mind. And it's got a very kind of gothic, happy kind of tone to it. Like, yeah, everything's dark, but we can have fun. So I gotta give the music an 8 out of 10. Like that was it was a sleeper kind of catchy. It's kind of engaging and melancholic at the same time. It actually brought a spirit of fun to what was otherwise a very somber kind of setting, or a somber story. So then the characters. I'm gonna kind of wrap back around myself for a moment and go back to writing. As I said, the individual stories, or at least the three that I talked to, the witch, the gargoyle, and the scientist, they were all really kind of fun to engage with, very well developed. But my problem is Robin and Mori weren't. And that, I feel like that's a problem, because they should be more serious fixtures to the game. So overall, I'm going to give characters a 5 out of 10 stars. The characters that were good were good. The characters that weren't good, they weren't bad, but they could have been better, is, I think, the takeaway from that point. And then, minigames. I like the idea of the minigame. The idea of, here's a person telling you what they want their last memory to be, and thus their last meal. And then you have to make it. I feel that there are two issues with the implementation. One, it wasn't clear that the second card in the screen, actually I think it was more about here, I mean, I'm going to have it in the video down anyway. But the second card on that screen, I don't think that was clear right away. There were multiples of those. If you looked at the first time I didn't realize that was a recipe card. I thought it was just, a note card up there. Something for a little bit of pathos and environment. I didn't realize it was a recipe card. Or that there were multiple recipe cards. So I didn't immediately realize that there were different recipes, and I thought, oh, I'm supposed to figure out what ingredients to put into the blender based on what she told me. And no, the ingredients don't have any additional information on them. So I was really kind of confused that first time around. But then the second time I noticed the arrow, and that kind of made a big difference. That's my first issue. It wasn't clear how the game worked. My second issue was, for what the game is representing, for what that minigame is representing, I feel that there should have been more to it. Maybe a question of how much of each ingredient to put in. Or a question of alternate ingredients. Or perhaps different reactions from the patron for using different ingredients or different amounts of ingredients. It's a solid idea. I just don't feel like it's developed quite enough yet. Now, I will also say, I understand this is your entry for NaNoRenO. Time's a factor, production time. You only have, 30 days to make it from the announcement. So, maybe you want to return to this later and fluff it out. There are some ideas for you. So, but overall, I'm going to give minigames a 5 out of 10 on this. Final thoughts for Last Meal at Cafe Mori. 2 points. One, did I enjoy playing it? Yes, very much so. It's a fun little half-hour, 40-minute playthrough. And I'm looking forward to getting the full thing when you finish it. Second thing, if this were for sale, how much would I pay for it? It is a very short game, and there's not a lot to it. So I would really say, 99 cents, $1 kind of thing. Keep it simple. You don't want to get or send people the wrong message by saying, oh, this is going to be a 4 or 5 hour game. Nah, it's an hour game. So I would say $1. So those are my thoughts on Last Meal at Cafe Mori. I do also have to say, since this is an entry for your NaNoRenO, I am not associated with the NaNoRenO judging committee. I am not involved in the contest. I am not privy to their judgment scale, and I have no influence on their judgment scale. My opinions stated in these videos are strictly that. They are my opinion. Do not take what I say as any kind of statement that you will win or will not win. So, but thank you for letting me check this out. Good luck with the competition, and, if you do kind of flesh it out a little more, let me know. I'd love to play a larger version.